Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Discovering Disabilities in Dearborn. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Mariam Alaouie, who is a co-founder or a founder of Blue Hands United, an educator in Dearborn Public Schools, and an advocate for persons with disabilities. We're very excited for this episode, Mariam. How do you feel being on this podcast?
Right. Honestly, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I think what you guys are doing is wonderful.
Thank you.
Much needed.
Thank you. And you guys, like very early on, were one of the key inspirers of us moving forward, and you guys motivated us. So just another shout out to you guys for all your work.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit about your work, Blue Hands United. Not everyone here in the community knows about Blue Hands United. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So Blue Hands United, we started in 2014. And the reason why we started Blue Hands United was to help families who were affected by autism or who are affected by autism discover ways to better their lives. And by doing that, so we decided to start supporting families discover different, maybe therapies or just different things around the community that could support them. And then even within the schools, we also supported with the schools, helping them navigate, so basically just navigate the system, whether it was in school or outside of school, get families connected with CLS services, community living services. And also, to me, most importantly, just be there, just be there for them, to listen to them and to let them know that they're not alone. There's so many other families dealing with the same thing that they are. And to me, that was most important on a personal level.
Sorry to interject. You mind just explaining a little bit about the CLS thing that you mentioned?
So community living services, there's a lot of agency outside in, not in Wayne County, and I'm sure other counties as well, where they support families basically with like getting Medicaid, finding housing if you need it. So each family will have their own support coordinator, and the support coordinator helps them, again, within the school, if they have like IEP meetings. If they need services outside of the school, they help with that, Medicaid, Social Security. So they basically support, and they even have people come to the home for like respite care. And then there's also, they have also someone coming into the home, not only for respite care where they stay in the home with the child, but also they take them out in the community. Oh, wow. So it's a service that we make sure a lot of like the families have it, it's available to the families.
So how do people get involved with such a service? How do people like sign up for it?
So Wayne County.
Wayne County. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. So it kind of reminded me of Access. Access has similar work. Mm-hmm. Is there some overlap with that?
There is.
Okay.
There is. Yeah.
Okay. So is there any significance behind the name Blue Hands United?
Yes and no. So initially when we had our first meeting, we had a group of people come, and we were just trying to pick a name, and someone mentioned a hand, and they mentioned the hand because, there's a saying that if you meet one person with autism, you've only met one person with autism because they're all so different. So your hand has 5 fingers, but they're all different. So that's where the hand came in from. And then blue because traditionally, blue was the color that, during Autism Awareness Day, they, the Light It Up Blue campaign. But currently, the neurodiverse community is kind of moving away from the blue. The blue is to raise awareness, but neurodiversity is pushing for the red for more acceptance and advocacy. So that's where the blue came in from. So that's how I said Blue Hands. And just because this is a platform where we educate, right, I just wanted to kind of mention that, with Blue Hands United, we don't specify what color. I mean, we're sticking with blue because of the name, but we support the neurodiverse community, and also, the awareness, the advocacy, and the education piece. So we're blended in all of it.
Right, that's awesome. And each thing does have like a color that represents it. Sometimes the colors do overlap, and I think that's also an important part of awareness in general. But yeah, being all inclusive and not putting so much emphasis on just a color is very important. So what you're doing is is amazing. So personally, I have this question. I want to know more about your experiences working with kids with disabilities, but leading up to that, like even up to that point, what was your moment where you're like, okay, this is what I want to do? You know, like starting from that and then moving on to getting your master's in social work and eventually, founding Blue Hands United?
Okay, so long story. I'll try to shorten it up as much as I can. I never imagined going into social work. That wasn't in the plans for me at all. But subhanAllah, like, every time I went to school, I was going for like nursing, pharmacy. It never worked out. Something happened and I had to drop out. And then one day I went to meet a counselor she was leaving. That was her last day. The boxes were in the office. She was leaving and she looked at my transcript and she was like, "What's going on with you?" And I explained my story and I will share it soon. I told her I'm a mom of 3. My 2 youngest are diagnosed with autism, and I explained to her it was hard, And she's like, "So why don't you just go into social work?" I'm like, "Social work?" She's like, "Yeah, just based off of what you're telling me and what you want to do, social work would be the best fit for you." And I went home and I thought about what she said, and honestly, I ran with it. And subhanAllah, ever since I decided social work, everything just like the doors just opened. And so with that, I got my master's in social work. So with that, I started working for a local school district, and I worked as a social worker for 2 years. But currently, I'm working as the autism behavioral specialist for the district. And then with the nonprofit, I felt, honestly, like I felt alone when he's my second child, but the first one that was diagnosed with autism. I began asking questions around the community. Like, I wanted to meet another parent that had a child with autism or that has a child with autism, and I could not find anyone. And I'm like, there's no way I'm the only one in the community. I didn't know much about autism myself, too, when we first started Blue Hands United. I was learning. And so I had to call parents, honestly, from Texas and California. I was talking to parents from there to just get some advice from a parent. I'm hearing what the doctors are telling me, but I want to hear from a parent. I want to see what worked for them and what didn't. And I just felt like talking to a parent would help me more, because honestly, when we were first going through the process, they tell you have to like get MRIs done and all these genetic testing, but everything was coming out. It was fine. There was nothing. And alhamdulillah, there was nothing, but why? Like, why does he have autism? And so I wasn't getting answers from the medical professionals, so I wanted to speak to parents, and no one. And then Mariam Alaouie, who's also the co-founder of Blue Hands United, she was going through her own personal things with her son, and I heard that she was looking to start a nonprofit, and I wanted to do the same thing. So that's how kind of like Blue Hands started, and that's how like my journey led me to also starting Blue Hands,
Did you guys know each other before this? Or?
Not really, no. So it's funny because she's from the same village and stuff,
wow.
but
okay.
not really. So the magic of Facebook.
I'm sure a lot of people think you guys are sisters.
Oh, definitely. And we are, honestly. Like, alhamdulillah, I'm really blessed that I met her.
That's amazing. So could you just tell us about your sons and your experience with when you discovered that they had autism?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, my boys, currently they're 13 and 12 years old. The 13-year-old, we kind of like immediately knew something was different, Immediately, as in like after birth? Well, like it was like 3 months, I want to say 3 months. And I think I was just, I don't know why, I think I was just paranoid at that time, And at 3 months, because every time when he's home, he's quiet. Every time we take him out, he just starts crying. No matter what I did, I couldn't like quiet him down until we came back home.
Okay.
So like that kind of like sparked like something. I'm like, okay, something's wrong. And then as he got older, he wasn't reaching his milestones. He wasn't, babbling like he should. He was just really quiet. He wasn't crying for anything. He wasn't requesting. And also, anytime someone would come over, that would intensify his fear. He would literally grab onto us, and no one could come over. We couldn't go anywhere. So I went to the doctor a few times, and the doctor just said, it's okay, just, let him be. He's growing, inshallah, it'll get better. But then by the time he was 2, and I was actually at the doctor's with my oldest son, and so the doctor kind of pulls me in the room, and he's like, I think we need to, get him evaluated. And we did, and they told me he had autism. And I was like Googling things too. I know you shouldn't, but I was. So I kind of suspected it.
So he was 2 years old at this point when the diagnosis was.
Yes.
Okay.
And back then, that's when they were diagnosing. Like it was after like 2 to 3 years of age. But now they're diagnosing a lot earlier than that.
Okay. And then you said, so what's the first son's name?
Hadi.
Hadi. So after you realized Hadi had autism, you guys ended up having another child, and he also had autism.
Which it's bad to say, but he wasn't planned.
Okay.
And I was nervous because I read that if you do have a child with autism and then have another one very close in age, the chances of autism is higher.
Okay.
And interestingly, like even Hadi, all his genetic testing, his MRI, everything came out like alhamdulillah normal. But I was really nervous when I found out I was pregnant because they're only 13 months apart. So I'm like, okay, I knew my chances were higher. And I was observing him a lot. But with Hassan, which is the 12-year-old, he didn't show any signs until, I want to say, a year and a half.
Okay.
Where Hadi, I've like kind of knew.
Sorry to interject so many times.
No, it's okay, please.
So with the genetic testing you talked about, so that was done after he was born?
Well, once we suspected autism, or the doctor did, and so you go to medical professionals that do a whole bunch of different testing, like cognitive, and then
Because
social.
when we researched, and we can ask the doctor behind the camera about, there's a particular disease or syndrome.
Fragile X.
Yes. Okay, that's a common cause of autism.
I don't know if it's a common cause, but I think, is it a common cause? Okay, I didn't know if it was a common cause or just something that,
Okay, so it seems like autism could be inherited in different ways.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, and it's comorbid with so many other.
Right.
How have the boys changed, like growing up from that young age, showing those signs till now? Similar, different?
Very different. Very different. Hadi, when he was younger, you look at him and you knew something was different. He did a lot of the stimming, the hand flapping. He would go on all fours all around like the house and just like rub his head all around. I think it's for sensory purposes. Again,
how old was he at this point when he was doing these things?
Oh, he was 1.
Okay.
He was really young. Again, we couldn't take him out. No one could come over because it increased his anxiety. And so with Hadi, and whatever we did with Hadi, we did with Hassan. We put him in ABA therapy. We did speech. In school he was in a center-based classroom. But subhanAllah, Hadi right now, he's going into 8th grade. He's in Gen Ed. He, you would think he's a typical child, and he is, and alhamdulillah, he's doing very well. He was considered severe initially, and now he's like mild. Where Hassan, he is considered severe because he is 12 and he is nonverbal. He does have some aggressive behaviors and he stims and stuff.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your family after you found out, you and your husband, and now your family ends up finding out, and just the general Dearborn community just branching out a little bit. How did you feel in that regard? Did you feel supported by family? We don't have to say any names or anything, but just in the general Dearborn community, how did you feel?
The most support I had was from my sisters. Alhamdulillah, I've been blessed with, my husband, Wissam. He has been an amazing support system, and he literally, we're partners. And I feel like a lot of times that doesn't happen, and I feel like, fathers need to be as involved as they possibly can, because it is a lot. It's a lot for one parent, and vice versa. Maybe sometimes the father is the one that is the main person that is, going to all these appointments and going to the school meetings. But I think it's really, really important to work as a team. I know emotionally it gets hard, and, maybe sometimes there's going to be like these arguments, which I feel like everyone has. But I think at the end of the day, if you know that you're one team and you definitely have that same goal for your child, and just stay focused on that. I feel like it's really important for both parents to be very involved and on the same page, and talk to each other about your feelings, because I feel like sometimes we don't do that as a couple. We tend to we get so busy with everything that's happening with our child that we don't talk to each other. And I think what's helped me and Wissam out is that communication.
It sounds like you and Wissam have developed like a common goal that you guys are both striving towards.
Absolutely.
And I think that's very beautiful, where people without a child with a disability or just in general don't have that common goal to follow. And you guys working towards that goal together makes your bond even stronger.
Well, the divorce rate with parents, with the couples who have a child with autism is high.
Okay.
And if I'm being honest, like, obviously, our tensions were high, especially when we first were going through it. And I think what we did initially was we kind of hid each other's feelings because we didn't want to hurt the other person. Because I seen what he was going through. I seen that he was struggling with, Hattie's diagnosis, and he's seen I'm struggling. So we didn't share. So the only time, we didn't share with each other our emotions. So tensions were kind of high in the beginning, but then we actually sat down and we talked about it. And we understood each other's point, and we knew that, sometimes I need a break, and then sometimes he needs a break, and that's okay. And we knew that anytime we were going through something, to communicate that with the other person. And I feel like that communication piece helped out so much. And, he didn't leave everything up to me, although he always says, well, you're the professional in this. But he's their father, and alhamdulillah, he's played a huge role in supporting and just being there and understanding everything every step of the way. So I think it's really important for both parents to be involved.
Communication is the most important thing, like not just giving but taking as well, like both of them, conveying your ideas, your feelings, and also listening to the other person, like really listening, not just like in one ear out the other. So
I love that you said really listen. It's really important.
Yeah.
But other than that, no. I think there is so many factors, because one, I don't think they don't understand it. They don't understand what autism is. Even I feel like as much as I explained it, they still don't understand it. So I think it was kind of a fear, as well. So it's like that lack of knowledge and then that fear. And I don't think they felt like they knew how to support. One story I can share is one time we were over at my parents' house, and, Hattie at that time, he didn't have any eye contact, and everyone was like, Hattie, Hattie, Hattie. Like, I had to tell him, just stop. Stop calling his name. He hears you. He just can't look at you. But there wasn't much support. But alhamdulillah, they never made me feel, until this day, I don't feel different. But to say that I have support the way I would have liked, I don't, and community, if I'm being honest, it is hard. It's hard. And I think people always have good intentions, but it is hard because when we do go out, especially with Hassan, because, Hassan stims and he makes a lot of, vocal sounds. The staring is hard. I get it. You look, turn around, there's something different, but the stares are intense. It's just a lot. And
could we just clarify a little bit of what stims are in particular? I know you kind of gestured, but could we explain what stims are?
Yeah, so every individual with autism stims differently, just to kind of either, the doctor could correct me, I guess, but so internally they're either overstimulated or understimulated, and that helps them. Or like my son, I can speak for my son. When he's excited, he stims. He starts flapping his hand, and he makes these vocal, stimming sounds as well. It looks different with every individual, so okay. I'm sorry if
I take it that stim is short for stimulation.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes
it's
sense.
A repeated behavior. My brother, both of his kids have autism, and I remember whenever we'd see, as the son was growing up, he has a son and a daughter. As the son was growing up, he'd always grab a longer object, whether it's a pencil or a stick or something, and he'd just start going like this. But it is also, I believe, a sort of relief for them, as you were saying earlier about understimulation.
Yes.
So
you were talking about the stairs. You're talking about when you're out. Could you continue talking about that? And what do you propose that people who meet your sons, how should they talk to Hadi and Hassan?
Talk to them like you would anyone else. I always tell them, with Hassan especially, yes, he's nonverbal. If you say hi to him, wait for him. Wait for him to give you a smile. Wait for him to look at you, Don't just say hi and leave. Yeah, I feel like just treat them like you would anyone else. That's what I ask. We don't treat them any differently. Hassan, and I know I say Hassan a lot because Hadi, alhamdulillah, he's doing a lot better. But Hassan is the one that I feel like it's important to talk about him. Well, it's important to talk about both because Hadi is kind of struggling right now socially. because, you know, it took him a lot longer to speak, and I think just autism in general. But then with Hassan, you know, people recognize him more than Hadi when we're out. They look at Hassan because, you know, he's taller than me. There's this big boy, and he's making these sounds, and sometimes they're really loud. Recently, we took him to Home Depot, and something happened, and he just screamed and flopped to the floor. So two people approached us, and their approach was very different. One older Arabi male, he tells my husband, "Idrubo," like hit him, like don't let him do that. My husband's like, "No, I can't hit him." And the other lady comes up and she's like, "Well, let him do deep breathing exercises." You know, so it's two different, both Arab, two different approaches. So then the gentleman comes up to me and he's trying to talk to me about Hussein. I said, "Ammu, like, I'm sorry." I said, "But he عنده توحد." You know, so I said he has autism, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." So he knows about autism, but doesn't recognize that this is how autism looked. He thought that Hassan is just misbehaving. But the second I said he has autism, like that whole demeanor change, he's like, "I'm so sorry," you know? So that was kind of interesting. So he knew what autism was, but then again, you know, didn't know.
That's why these initiatives that, you know, that we have going on are so important to not just teach people definitions of disabilities and things like that, but like teach them more about them, you know, what to look for, how to like be communicative with them. And that's also, you know, going based off the idea that you said, like, okay, even if he's nonverbal, that doesn't mean he's not non-communicative. Like he can understand things still. Whether there's stares, like he'll know people are looking at him. You know, the things that people say, just because he doesn't talk doesn't mean he can't understand what other people are saying.
He definitely understands it. I mean, we all do. We speak to Hassan Adi, like we talk to him normal. And he understands. He just can't communicate. He communicates through an AAC device, a speech device.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that device, how it works?
So it varies per individual. There's different programs, and it just speech and ABA, they're pushing it. So they have a way, because, you know, before they used to use a lot of sign language.
Yeah.
We don't understand sign language. So that AAC device helps them communicate with everyone and anyone. You know, it's different pictures, and they just click on the picture, and it just like it'll say what they need.
I heard those devices are pretty expensive. No?
So, I mean, yes. Okay. But your speech pathologist at school can apply for one for you, and you get it through like the school, like Medicaid or your insurance and stuff. Or if you go to a local speech center, they also get it for you. But I'm sure they're expensive, but I know like the school supports, and also insurance.
Yeah, insurance always helps when
definitely.
People have it.
It definitely does. But just to go back to, you know, how should people treat them, I do really, really want to emphasize just like treat them like you would anyone else. I feel like that's so important, because something my husband and I always, we agreed that we're not going to treat them any differently. We knew that taking Hassan out to a restaurant was going to be hard. We knew that taking Hassan out to the mall was going to be hard, going on an airplane. But we also thought about it when they go to ABA. What do? A lot of their, you know, the programs are repetitive. So we figured, okay, the first time it's going to be really hard. The next time it's going to be hard. And then, inshallah, with time, it eases. So now Hassan sits at a restaurant and he orders what he wants through his own, like, communication device. It's the same restaurant all the time, but we're okay with it. But we wanted him to experience that. We wanted him to be able to go out to a restaurant and see how that is. And we didn't feel like keeping him home was going to help him in any way. We wanted him to be out in the community, and we wanted others to see him.
That's a common struggle that we've heard a lot on this podcast, especially with like our last episode with Wehbe, for example. He talked about how people with disabilities would expect him to stay at home, or the community at large would expect people with disabilities to just stay at home and amount to nothing. But it sounds like you are realizing the potential that your children have, and you're trying to actualize those different potentials. So we respect parents like that, and it's a big inspiration for anyone watching.
Thank you. We had to put our feelings aside. I felt like it was more about like, oh, how are we going to? I'm telling you, it's hard. You know, it really, really is hard, and I do want to stress that. But with time, it gets easier. And we looked at it in both ways. we wanted Hassan to experience that, but we also wanted people to see him. You know, we wanted people to see how individual, because I'm sure, I don't know, like when you go out to restaurants or to the mall, how many individuals with autism do you see? You know, and I'm talking about severe autism. We don't see much. Like a lot of times I just see a Hassan, you know, and I want to encourage parents to do it, not only for their child's sake, but also for others around us in the community to see them and kind of normalize it.
So what I'm hearing is it's not that those people with severe autism aren't there, but it's that they're probably in their homes.
Yeah. You know, and they definitely are. And I know, you know, everyone's situation is different. You know, what's easy to me might be hard to someone else and vice versa. So for the parents that can't, I mean, it's okay. But I do highly encourage them to try. And if they can't do it alone, try it with someone.
I wanted to ask you about Ali, your oldest son.
Mm-hmm.
Just his experiences, you know, having two younger brothers with autism. How do you feel that developed his character? And also you as parents, how did it shape you as individuals?
I'll start with myself. I have to say, and I was driving the other day in the car and I was thinking about it. I was thinking about Hassan mainly. He's definitely changed me and his father, honestly, so much. I feel my patience is so much better now. I look at the world differently. A lot of things that maybe would have mattered to me before don't anymore. I appreciate so much more of what life has given us. And, you know, we're living with angels. Like, you know, what better than that? Like, we're so lucky that I actually have, like, I literally say I have two angels at home, you know? And I'm thankful for that. And this is where the tears are going to start coming in. I'm thankful for that. And I also say, like, there's a reason why Hassan was given to us. You know, I feel like Hassan, not only what we're doing is, like, helping him, I feel like he's also is helping other kids, you know? Sorry, guys.
We have the tissues for a reason.
That's why I said get the tissues. So me, it definitely, I feel like, made me a better person. Ali's really quiet about it, but I do think it shaped him into the person he is. And, you know, alhamdulillah, he's a really, really good young man. I feel he's wise beyond his years, and he's very respectful. I feel like he feels a lot more with people, you know. And one thing, you know, we were talking about earlier, I kind of feel bad for is because I feel like Ali is trying to think about what he wants to do in his future in a way to more so, not for himself, but to support his brother. You know, he's trying to figure out, like, okay, I'm going to school. What am I going to do in school? He wants to do something that he feels like is going to be able to not only support his family, but also his brother as well. Because he tells me, he's like, Mom, like, he's not going to go into, like, any home or anything. He's going to stay with me. So, yeah.
The best thing for that, I'm not a parent or anything, but I think the best thing for that is for him to do what he's most comfortable doing. This is also what I mentioned earlier, because the best thing he can do for his brothers is to be there. Mm-hmm. And for him to be fully there, mm-hmm. he needs to do what he loves, because that's going to keep him in the right mindset.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And we told him, like, his father and I, we've mentioned, don't worry about that. Like, that's why I'm working. That's why his father's working. And we have a plan, you know. So we don't want him to worry about it. We just tell him, you do what is going to make you happy, what's going to make you comfortable. But I feel like no matter how much we say it, khalas, it's in his head that my brothers are my responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's his blood at the end of the day, and he grew up with it. So I don't think isolating the two and just ignoring it is necessarily, like, the best thing. Yeah. And if it is informing his future goals, then so be it. He'll be more competent in his field with his lived experiences more than someone else who didn't have those lived experiences.
No, alhamdulillah, honestly, alhamdulillah, he helps out so much. Like, he takes his brothers and brings his brothers to therapy. Hassan, the first name he called was actually Ali. He didn't say Ali, he says Oye, but I mean, we know that's Ali, and he looks for him when he's not around, so he has, like, that really strong bond with his brothers. But I feel like if you ask him to talk about it, he's, like, really kind of, he keeps it all in, you know?
Yeah. I think that is normal. It's not the easiest thing to talk about, but hopefully with platforms like these, it's becoming a bit easier. Before we go on our break, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the therapies that are going on right now. You mentioned therapy. So what kind of therapies do your children do they currently go to therapy?
So Hassan does. Hadi was, but he graduated out of ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis.
And I've heard different things about ABA.
Yes.
I don't know if we want to jump into that.
I mean, I'm not a professional in that field, but I believe, on a personal level, if it's done correctly, it's really helpful.
Okay.
But there's a lot of different views on it. And, today I was actually talking to a parent, and I told a parent, like I said, from a parent to parent, if you want ABA to really be effective, you need to be like in close communication with that BCBA. The person that, creates the programs, and make sure that you don't have a lot of technicians working with your child, because whoever's working with your child, you want to make sure they know the program. So if every day someone new is coming in and working with your child, they don't really know the program. So it's really important that you have that close communication with that BCBA, and also make sure you limit the amount of technicians working with your child.
It's also harder for the child. Sorry to cut you off.
It definitely is. But again, if it's done correctly and you're working with the right people, I think it's very effective. On a personal level, I think it's worked great for my kids. With Hadi, we realized that, khalas, alhamdulillah, he's doing well, and we didn't feel like he needed ABA anymore. So what we did with him now is he's mainly in like sports. Like he goes to boxing. We're going to hopefully put him in like taekwondo. He wants to do that. He wants to play sports. So because of we want him to have like that social life. Hassan is still currently receiving ABA services, and he also receives Hadi as well, speech services. But then there's also occupational therapy, physical therapy. All depends on the child's need. And I keep saying child. I feel bad, but also adults with autism. I feel like we tend to forget about the adults with autism.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll take our break now, but this has been great.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you or someone you know would be interested in being a guest on the podcast, or if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at DreamDearborn, or on our website at dreamdearborn.org, or on our email at disabilitiesproject@umich.edu. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Discovering Disabilities in Dearborn, where we're talking about autism, we're talking about Blue Hands United and all the amazing work that Mariam has done and her experiences with her children. Thank you so much for having this honest and candid conversation with us. So I wanted to kind of talk to you about the idea of parent involvement when it comes to autism, because you're a very involved parent. But unfortunately, not every parent is like that. Not every parent who has a child with a disability is as involved, and that could be for many, many different reasons. I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on parent involvement in relation to how it affects the outcome of a child with a particular disability.
I think parent involvement is key. We always say you are your child's voice, and you definitely are your child's voice. So definitely being involved and having that close communication with the BCBA, your child's teacher at school. I feel like it just changes so much, and I think it strengthens you as a parent as well, because you're learning through the process too. You're learning from different professionals, and you're just more observant with things, And I think as a parent, you know your child the best, and it's important. It's important to share your experiences at home with your teachers, your BCBAs, and all of them.
Just to add to that, I also think it's important as a parent, being a person so close to your child. I also think it's important to provide some kind of way for your child to open up, and maybe it can be as simple as just writing what they're thinking down on a paper, not for a specific question, just in general what they're thinking about, or representing it in some way. But one thing that I always like to think about is, okay, people with autism, they have I don't know if this is true or not. This is how I think of it. They have a different way of looking at the world, and it's not necessarily a bad way, you know. So it could be something as simple as like, okay, we look at a tree, for example, as just a plant, you know, but they might look at it as like something that's provides oxygen, you know, provides a home for certain insects, just different way of looking at things. And I think that can translate to doing something like tremendous, you know, like we look at all the examples of famous people in the past who have autism, have other disabilities, and they were able to accomplish so much and change the world. And I think that if we kind of, you know, allow people with autism, our children, you know, but also our adults as well, if we allow them to open up and, you know, provide the way they think and know that that's okay to share that, I think that'll go a long way in helping them understand that, okay, I can make a difference. So I just wanted to add that. But
no, definitely, it's very important. I feel like, you know, they also feel so much more than maybe we do. You know, I don't know, maybe like they just feel your strength and they I don't want to do more too. I just think it's really important as a parent to advocate not only for your child, but again, just to go back to what we were saying earlier, for others to also learn. And I want people to actually ask me questions, like, you know, when we're out. I don't know how I got into this, but right now, but I feel like if we as parents are more vocal about it, we provide opportunities for others to ask questions. So like we're kind of unintentionally like educating because we're open about it and we're allowing people to feel comfortable, because maybe it's an issue with them that, you know, they don't feel comfortable asking, but if they see that you're more open about it and that you're speaking about it, then they'll feel comfortable asking you questions. So I feel like if being involved wasn't just for myself and my kids, but also for others outside of our home, just for people in the community to see and ask questions.
Right. And speaking of opportunities, just to take this back to Blue Hands United a little bit, what kinds of services do you guys offer, as well as are there any like volunteer opportunities for people to get involved?
Absolutely. We always welcome volunteers. On our website, there's a link where anyone can go and just like put in your name if you want to be a volunteer. And so Blue Hands United, right now we're like the middle person. We're the middle person between like schools. We support families kind of navigate the school system, and also within the community. Like I said earlier, we kind of support them with getting like ABA services or CLS services. We provide them with, you know, names of places. We also call for them, emotional support, financial support, and then also our goal is right now we have a summer program. It's about to start actually Saturday. We have like a pool party going on. So we want to do things throughout the year for parents that have a child, not only with autism. So I know initially we said Blue Hands United for autism. So we kind of dropped the autism piece. Yes, we mainly support families with autism, but we never turn down anyone else. Like we've had families that have a child with Down syndrome that asks for support. We will never turn down any other family. So right now I feel like we're supporting any family that has any loved one with a disability in general. But so we try to hold different events around Dearborn where we've went to restaurants, we went to the zoo together, just give them these experiences that maybe as a parent by yourself you're going to be nervous or you don't want to feel different. So just give them the opportunities to experience different, you know, like going to the pool, going to the zoo, you know, going to the park. And
I think if that's the only thing you guys did, that alone would be sufficient. And I know you guys do so much more than that, but just giving parents and families the sense that they're not alone goes such a long way. Because they really are not alone. It's just hidden, you know, swiped under the rug or whatever the phrase is. But you know what I'm trying to say. It's like the fact that you're making these things a reality, I think, and showing that these are real things, I think it's very important.
Thank you. I mean, to me, that was the most important thing. I wanted families to know that you are not alone. I want families to, you know, to be more comfortable with taking their... I can't stress, like I feel like I need to stress this. I can't stress it enough that take your kids out. I know it's hard. I know it's hard, but I feel like it's so important for others to see our kids. It has to become something natural.
And I like what Rashad was saying earlier. We didn't really touch on it when he was talking about the trees and their way of thinking. I think having that diversity of thought, having that diversity and then including these individuals, whether in the classroom or in the public, is such an important thing. And a very good example of a person who does that is Halal Food Junkie, Ibrahim. I appreciate how he always brings his brother Aki, on his page, and he has a lot to offer. So doing things like that, I think, goes a long way.
It definitely, and I know in schools they are pushing inclusions and general ed classrooms, and I feel like we need to do that outside in the community as well. One other thing that we are working on is we're working with the local businesses to hire adults with autism.
Oh, that's great.
We did that for one individual that came to us, and we need more of that.
I remember seeing something on the Blue Hands United page. I was probably looking at it one night, and I saw a kid at Greenland.
Yes.
Probably a very old post.
Well, he's at Target now.
Okay.
Was it Target? Or one of the stores? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
he is.
yeah.
He is in one of those.
That's amazing.
Stores, yeah.
That's great. And I know there are other stores solely run by individuals with disabilities. Could you speak a little bit on those?
I don't think we don't have any in Dearborn, but I do know in other.
There's that thrift store on Ford and Telegraph.
I know there's.
Forgetting what it's called.
Oh my God, I can't remember the name of this place, but everything is made by individuals with autism, and they sell it. There's a coffee shop. I can't believe I forgot the name. There is a coffee shop I said I wanted to go visit as well that also hires individuals with disabilities. That's something we would love to bring to Dearborn too. Blue Hands United. We have a lot of plans, of future plans and future goals. Inshallah, we can. We just need, I feel more support from the community on the educating and also sponsoring and donating. So just to help us reach that goal.
Blue Hands United is definitely involved in the community. You have the services that are by name that people can get and that you provide to the community, but you also have community involvement, which isn't directly a service provided by you, but just trying to go and communicate and interact with as many people as possible and help as many people as possible. I came across this one article that spoke about something you guys did last year, which touched a lot of people, is when the floods hit. You guys were kind of you reached out to families or you had them fill out a form. I'm not quite sure if you want to talk a little bit about that, but basically families that had special needs children, if they had a certain device or school supplies or anything that got messed up in the flood, you guys were kind of providing them with that thing, so if you want to talk a little bit about that, it would be much appreciated. And also another thing that I want to know from that, I keep hitting you with these long questions, I'm sorry, but
maybe let her hit this question and then we can go back to that one.
All right, that's fair.
So during COVID, I knew on a personal level how hard it is, because now their routine is, it was broken. So, and we couldn't hold any of our events that were in person. So we wanted to do something. We were feeling bad, and how could we support, And we felt like the best way to support is to give back, especially we had parents email us that, like you said, certain devices or certain blankets that they loved or toys were damaged, through the flood, and we wanted to support, and we felt like that would be, for that time, the best way to support. And so we tried to replace the items that were damaged by the flood. And alhamdulillah, it was pretty successful. So we were happy to do it, because we have a yearly event in April, and we couldn't hold that, and we were feeling so bad about it. So we were just trying to find different ways to stay connected with the community, and showing them that continue to reach out. We're here, even for emotional support. We did have a lot of parents also call and they just wanted to vent, because ABA services stopped, they're at school.
Because of COVID?
Because of COVID.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about...
you said flood. I went into COVID, sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. It was related. The flood happened during,
Did it? Okay, so everything is kind of
COVID-19 flooded our community. Yeah, no, it's all overlaps. It's just the idea of services for individuals with
Yeah.
disabilities, which were already relatively limited, being further limited by these natural catastrophes and whatnot.
I guess it all played the same in my head.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about once we first found out about COVID-19 and how it affected Blue Hands United as an organization.
Yeah.
What was your response dealing with it after having all of these services and everything you guys did? I'm sure, everything got flipped on its head.
Yeah, well, I kind of sort of like, I don't know how I mixed the flood with COVID, but so yes, our event. So we have this yearly event that, over 600 people attend. And we usually hold it in one of the Dearborn Public Schools gym, and we couldn't hold it anymore. And then also a lot of what I was saying earlier, like the services, the ABA services, speech, school, everything stopped. So we couldn't support physically. So we tried to just support, emotionally, mentally, however we could. We stayed in close communication with parents. If we knew of any services that were occurring, like for the child in home, we informed the parents. Again, and we did if there was any toys or anything that we can support with, or even educational items that we can support with while they're in the home. We did that. A lot of families called with their child's behaviors increasing. So we kind of guided them as to what they can do at home.
Could we talk a little bit more about the children or even the adults with these various disabilities? You talked about their behaviors increasing.
Yeah.
Did we hear anything else?
So mainly the behaviors, the sleep schedule, parents, they were emotionally drained, physically drained. And then also online schooling is very difficult for a child with autism. They can't sit for a long period of time.
And a lot of therapy services,
they paused, or they were in home, but in home later, but they're via, telehealth, right? But I mean, how many individuals with autism can sit for over 15 to 30 minutes on, in front of a screen? But so we mainly supported in that emotionally, I feel like, and we provided them ideas for calming strategies and also calming corners. And if they needed supplies for the calming corners, we also provided that as well.
During your time, providing those things to families, did you notice the differences in things that people appreciate and people need? And do you think that can lead to maybe an online list of something for parents to try, maybe, or for children or anybody with with a disability to try and see if they'd enjoy using that thing or having that service?
When you say appreciate, can you just, I'm sorry, can you
whatever it may be, whether this goes back to the flood a little bit too, but the devices, or you mentioned a blanket as well, but anything that somebody really appreciates, and holds dear to their heart, do you think that could be translated to an online list or something like that, where other people can also try those things, try using them?
Absolutely. And I actually like that idea, having that online list. Absolutely.
Write it down.
I should, right? No, definitely. And a lot of it is, just fidgets and sensory toys and weighted blankets. And
do those things actually help with? I mean, I've read some research on fidgets. I don't know about.
Basically, depending on their sensory need or what they're trying to communicate, certain fidgets will work.
Yeah.
If you have this child that is, overly stimulated, you're not going to give them a ball to throw or to play with. You want to give them something calming, And
that's why I think having that list is important, so they can kind of see what works best.
Absolutely. Having that list and kind of listing, okay, this will help with, this type of sensory need and this type of sensory need. So no, definitely, I think your question is important.
Yeah.
Something my husband and I did, and I'm not saying this is right. This is just something we did. I know with autism, a lot of individuals have a lot of sensory needs. For me, and I feel like this is just a personal thing, I always think about my children in the future. What would look appropriate later on in the future? He did a lot of hand stimming and a lot of turning. So when he was younger, what we felt would be most appropriate, so instead of him flapping his hands, we would grab his hands and play Ring Around the Rosie. We would try to give him that sensory input in a way that at that time was appropriate, looked appropriate. So even with Ahsan, a lot of times at school with occupational therapy, they focus a lot on that sensory. And I ask them not to do that. I think it is important to provide it, but for me, this is me on a personal level, I wanted to limit it for my child. Just because yes, I would provide you that sensory input, but then, okay, let's move on. Let's do something else. I didn't, because a lot of times when I go to doctors and they ask me like, oh, so what is a repetitive behavior? What are they like sensory wise and stuff? And there isn't anything, because I feel like my husband and I worked hard on just truly understanding what the need was. And at that age, what is appropriate.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is going to work for everyone, but it worked for us. And that's something that we wanted as parents for our children.
It sounds like finding your own solutions, whatever works, is the key, because a lot of these things aren't generalizable. One thing I found helpful for individuals with disabilities and even certain individuals on the autism spectrum is chess. I actually started a chess organization called Chess for Success, and we actually get people with various, all walks of life, some who have disabilities, others without disabilities. But we've had a few individuals with autism learn the game, and, it stimulates their mind, and it kind of gives them some relief in a sense, because there's so much novelty in chess. Every position is different, so in that way, it's very stimulating. So, yeah, it goes back to finding solutions or whatever works for any given person.
Yeah, we always say, behavior is a form of communication. So if they are engaging in behavior, what are they trying to communicate? Really think about what happened before that behavior occurred. Just truly try to understand your child in that sense. Look at the environment. Is it something in the environment that affected them? I feel like the hardest behavior to figure out is more of like the sensory, the ones that are happening internally. But just give them ways to communicate, and just truly understanding, where is this behavior coming from?
We've talked about many great things. I think it's time for Rashad to take us to our final segment that we like to ask all our guests.
We like to ask our guests a specific question. We call it a dream segment. The question is, what is your dream? And that can be related to anything, any goals that you have for the future, whether for yourself, for your family, anything in general. But yeah, what is your dream?
It's a big question.
Yeah.
I feel like I could answer in so many ways, but my dream is for, I want, just like any parent, I want the best for my kid. I want people, oh my God, I'm getting emotional. I don't know why. Sorry.
It's okay.
I want people to treat my children like they would anyone else. I want parents to educate their children on special needs and, just teach them to be kind, to give others that are different an opportunity. Give them a chance, play with them, talk to them. I feel like we are living in a world with these high expectations, so maybe lower your standards, and just see each individual for who they are. Our kids have so much that they can provide, and I wish people, stop looking at them based off of their label and rather who they are and what they can provide. My dream is just to have more opportunities for our kids, whether, they're younger or they're adults, and just for people to have empathy and passion and just support and just educate, You
guys heard it. Give everyone an equal opportunity, treat everyone with respect and empathy. And I think with you being here, with you, I think your tears hold a lot of weight. So thank you for being very transparent. And I think like conversations like these, inshallah, will make a change in our community. And I think our community is already doing amazing things. But yeah, no, you guys are amazing. Blue Hands United is amazing. Everyone check out Blue Hands United. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Mariam.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah. just the emotions that you show are they show how passionate you are about this, and I think a lot of people can feed off that energy and really make a change. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, thank you for having me, and I'm confident. I'm confident in our community, and I think, inshallah, we'll get there. I just, just be kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, if we don't have anything else, I'd like to give one more huge thank you to Mariam for sharing her knowledge and experiences with us today. A huge thank you to the audience for watching at home. Be sure to follow us on our social media, Dream Dearborn on Instagram and Facebook, and check out our website, dreamdearborn.org. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next episode.